What's happening, everybody? Great to be back here on another Tuesday night with everybody talking a little Bengals. I know most of the people that watch this show are Bengals fans, and I really do appreciate y'all and the support I'm getting and the things I'm hearing on social media and the feedback I'm getting about the show. So, again, this is the last one before the season starts. So this is the last one, without a real game to talk about. And obviously we're going to talk about the Cleveland game coming up, but this is the last one without us having a chance to talk about what happened in the game the previous week. And myself, I had a little rough start to our season down here calling the plays, but we're going to turn this thing around down here at Denham Springs High School in Louisiana. But I'll tell you what, it's one of those things where the best team doesn't always win, but we just got to keep pushing forward, and it's going to be one of those games this weekend for the Bengals. And I think on paper everybody looks at the Bengals and says, "Man, this team is better than the Browns." Well, the thing is, the Browns are pretty good too. This is probably one of the better teams they've fielded in a while, and as you look across the board, there's talent at pretty much every position. But the thing about it is the Bengals right now with the talent they have, and really all the guys they've got still under rookie contracts, and it's pretty impressive how they're keeping this team together. And we'll see what happens with the contract situations going forward with Burrow and Huggins and Chase and everybody else that they need to keep under contract. But looking forward to this weekend. The game's in Cleveland, and I think y'all have all heard my story if you were on here last week. And the Cleveland fans can be brutal, and it's a fun place to play. And I know as an opponent coming in there, it's always fun to have some, the opposite team just really kind of hate you, and it's fun to go in there and win. I remember in 2011, Andy Dalton's first game, he gets hurt in Cleveland. We bring Bruce Caskey in the second half, and he throws what we called a bonsai. It was a kind of a quick counted just go balls, and he threw it to AJ Green and won the game. So it's I have fond memories of Cleveland. Now, the last time I was there was the Baker Mayfield, kind of coming out party that one year in 2018, and that was a brutal end to it there. But I tend to like to look at the positives, but Cleveland is a tough place to play. I think if you look at what they're doing with Cleveland, the X factor is really going to be Deshaun Watson. I think everybody understands Deshaun Watson and a talent he has, whether you like him or not. I understand that there's a lot more to the situation with him than just football, and that's understandable. And I just know, but if you look at the guy on the field, he is the X factor for them. And, he played in the second game last year versus the Bengals. He was 26 of 42 for 276 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So that was coming off of, I believe, an 11-game suspension. So he was probably a little rusty there. And you're looking at a full offseason kind of without the distractions, as much as you can say that for a guy that lived through what he lived through, put himself through over the past few years. And, the past suspensions and all that stuff, it's out of the way for him. So maybe he's had a full season, full offseason with Cleveland under Coach Stefanski and then Alex Van Pelt being the coordinator. I know both of those guys very well. I know they're going to get those guys coached up and ready to go. They also bring back Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones at the receiver position. Nick Chubb at running back. I think everybody knows Nick Chubb is a really good player and has the ability to be a game changer. And then obviously when you look at the defense, Myles Garrett and the guys they got up front to be able to rush the passer. And that's kind of where you're going to see the battle between the offensive line and the defensive line, or the rush packages that Cleveland's going to put up against Joe Burrow and his line. They added Zadarius Smith. So he was at Baltimore. He's drafted by Baltimore, but he was at Green Bay and Minnesota. When I was in Detroit as a running back coach, we played against him multiple times when he was at Green Bay. And he is a destructive player when he's playing at a high level. And I'm pretty sure he's probably still going to be playing at a high level. So even though they don't have Jadeveon Clowney from last year, they did add Zadarius Smith. So it's one of those things where you kind of they got rid of one, but they got another. So, and then Denzel Ward's back in the secondary, and then there's an LSU product, Grant Delpit, that's back there with them. I just don't think this is going to be a pushover game for the Bengals by any means, but it's one of those games where if the if the Bengals can show up and just do what they're supposed to do, they should be able to take care of business, even though it's in Cleveland, opener, everything that goes with it. Because this is going to be one of those weeks. The NFL always tries to match up some division rivals, and then obviously Thursday night's game, Kansas City and Detroit. You got Kansas City, the reigning champs, but then you also got Detroit, who everybody's pretty high on right now. So it's one of those games that's going to bring a lot of excitement to the league. And unfortunately, I am actually playing one of my games on Thursday night, so I've got something more important to do. But I'll come home and make sure I catch up to it. But let's do this. Let's start digging into Cleveland a little bit. Let's start looking at their defense and what their defense kind of brings to the table, really versus a couple different teams. But there's some Bengals clips here from last year. None of this is from the preseason. I'm done with the preseason. We're going to look forward to pretty much what they're doing now. So if you look at this first couple clips, so they're very opportunistic defense. So when I say that, it's the ability to rush the passer, but it's also the ability to still play a little man coverage behind it. And that does create an ability to bring five, to blitz five and still cover down and still have a guy deep. You don't have to play cover zero. So when you look at these plays here, this is just an opportunistic defense here of what they're trying to do. So if you look here, they're running the guy out. The Bengals are, and they'll actually bring him back. So what we're looking at here is the ability to see, okay, what is it? Is it man? What is it? But you see all the talking that Cleveland's doing. Now, as you see here, they're going to bring – they're playing like an underneath guy here and taking away these underneath crossers. Well, what happened was, as you can see here, I believe this was Clowney right here, and he gets his hands up, hits the pass, but because they're able to create such a rush with really only three guys in all reality, they're able to drop a guy out here. They're able to really drop a guy underneath and still really play man coverage across the board here and still keep guys in zones, which when you have those kind of rushers up front, it allows that to happen. Now, this is why when defenders intercept the ball, just go down sometimes. It doesn't make it. Now, I know, as a Bengals fan, if you're watching this, but really what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a guy trying to make a play, which is good. But again, if you get the ball off if you're a defensive player and you intercept or get a fumble recovery, get what you can get and then get down. I just know we always tell the offensive players that when there's an interception or there is a fumble recovery or something, they're not used to carrying the ball. So go attack them as if you're a defensive player trying to steal the ball from them, because in all reality, they don't know how to carry the ball. So there is a fine line between, trying to get what you can get and trying to do a little bit too much. I don't know if you just noticed that or not, but there was that little head tap again right there. That little head tap and point. So you can see P. Ryan right here. I know he's not with them anymore, but you can see he is tied into what he's saying right here. So there's probably some form of you can see they're setting back. P. Ryan's really looking. He's setting here. He's setting here on him. He's setting here on him. He's setting here on him. Now, what they'll end up doing is dropping 54 and dropping 28, and you get a three-man rush. Well, problem with that is you get a guy like Clowney who can, probably jump out the gym and gets his hands on it. So again, when you got those kind of guys up front, it allows you to do those kind of things. Now, looking at Cleveland's defensive line, I do want to make a point of that. There are some things that people probably don't really realize, but if you're running a screen, so right here, they're running a little halfback screen, and they're trying to get linemen out. They're trying to get linemen out to block. Well, let's say you're a defensive lineman, you're a really good defensive lineman, and nobody blocks you, or they just block you for a second and let you go. You've got to, bells and whistles have got to be going off in your head. And if you watch the way this play ends from the end zone, you'll see they couldn't get the screen off, and it wasn't because necessarily like anything was bad. The design of the screen was bad. But if you watch here, they're trying to get out for a screen. Well, these two defensive linemen, and this is why I'm saying this is they're well coached up front, because you can see how they stop and they retrace back and don't allow that throw to be made. It's not an easy throw, and it caused a kind of a tip here. And now again, yeah, this is the other thing you got to realize too as we look at a couple more of these clips is this man right here, number 95. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you my bias. I'm a fighting Texas Aggie. All right, so obviously Myles Garrett, near and dear to my heart when he was at A&M. Coached against him at Cleveland, was not as near and dear to my heart at that point. But just letting you know, there are some Aggies out there causing some noise. So there you go. He's right here. I mean, you would think you'd want to block him a little longer than that, but they're very opportunistic D, and I think they're very well coached up front to take those kind of things away that you don't really think about when it comes to, like retracing on a screen or whatever the case is. Now, this is kind of, they get lucky too. I think everybody remembers this play, and everybody probably thought, man, Chase was about to throw a pass. I just want to point out that this was just one of those plays where you called it, and then you're like, Chase is like, oh boy, there's three dudes standing right here. This was really just a run to Chase. This was just an around, because here's the reason I'm telling you that is you see these guys all running down the field. You don't send them down the field unless it's a run. So if this would have been like a double pass or something like that, again, they wouldn't be down the field. So it's just kind of funny. I think the thing about Chase is, this is how good of a player this kid is. He realized there was nowhere to go at this point. Like, I got no chance running right there. So what he did was he decided he's going to pull up like he's going to throw, and then hope maybe they back off of him, or maybe he can make a move. And then finally he just, took one for the team right there. But there's it's just amazing how when you have that kind of savvy as a player, because you can see right here, you got linemen downfield. So obviously even if he threw this away, that would be a penalty for a lineman downfield. So, at some point you just got to take the sack. But that play has absolutely nothing to do with Cleveland's defense. I just thought, like, hey, it's kind of fun sometimes to see how, when things mess up, they're not always, you can kind of make something of it. Now, I will make a point. I'm not real sure what that is. All right. I'm just going to say, like, I get it that they have an elf as a mascot. But what is that? Like, I mean, that's not what a brown is, right? I thought they were dogs. That's why I'm a little, confused about the dog pound and that thing that they put on their field last year. But if you look at here, then these are just some sacks that they have. And really there's 4 of these. Okay. So, as we're looking through these, just looking at the get off of Myles Garrett. Now this is going to be a 3-man straight rush. That's Tom Brady. So, Tom Brady's very aware of the rushes, and, but you could see how he can really turn that corner and dip and rip. And it's one of those things where you just got to, as an offensive line or offensive line coach, you just got to be ready for, you just got to be ready to find a way to help on him. And really you could see it's that dip and rip. And you can see when you've got your feet turned the way that tackle has his feet turned, and he's not past the quarterback. So look, the quarterback's back here. He's on this level, and his feet are already turned in. That's not where you want to be, because right now you're allowing that. You're opening the gate, as some people would say. So when you say opening the gate, picture this left tackle turn into open a gate. So if you ever hear opening the gate, he just turned and just opened that gate right up for him. So again, you're creating protection plans too. That now is Clowney a bigger problem for Tampa Bay? I'm not sure, but if you look at the way that they're doing this, they're going to send basically the entire offensive line over here when you've got probably one of the best pass rushers in the league over here. So just finding a protection plan for that, and I'm sure that Frank Pollock and Zach and all those guys are going to have it put together. Now, same thought process here. Again, same game, late in the season, Myles Garrett. I mean, you could just see, like, you can't, if you can get something on him on the edge. Now, what a lot of teams do is it's called chipping. So you'll see, like, the back, when he sets here, the back will set right here. the back's not trying to block him. The back's not really trying to take anything off of him. All the back's trying to do is put a body presence there so that he can't just go around the edge. So you put a body presence right there, and it causes him to maybe either hesitate or go back inside, and that's where this guy comes into play. But right here, if you just allow them to go around each other, and then here's another thing too, that if anybody ever really notices, you see how that center's putting up a 5. What he's saying is 5-0. Okay, so 5 like 5-0, like Hawaii 5-0. All right, what he's saying is these 5 are taking the 5 most dangerous threats. So I'm assuming that they're including one of these guys in the 5. But you can see he's throwing up that 5. Now what that's doing is now they're sorting out. Now the back, if the back would have gone outside, like I said here, you might have been able to slow him down just a touch. But again, that's where you got to put in a plan for that. That's not that's not one of those things where you don't know it's going to happen. You know those things are coming. Now this is kind of crazy. So this is where they can get a little exotic. So right here, it looks like you just got a 4 down front, correct? That's what it looks like. So you're going to say, oh, that's no big deal. That's just a 4 down front. Well, the thing is, that's your linebacker. That's number 54. That's your linebacker. There's Garrett right there. Garrett's standing over the center, kind of as a linebacker. And what he's going to do is get a good running start right here. And he's already tough when you don't get a running start on him, much less when you give him a running start. So what this ends up doing too, now you're an empty here, so really you got to think there's 5 guys on the line of scrimmage here, and you got 5 linemen. So most likely they're in some form of big on big. So right there, so you're putting yourself on a one-on-one blocking right here. Now, why are they? I'm sorry, I had that backwards. There's 54 right there. I circled him on the sideline. I apologize for that, but that's the linebacker. So they're just moving people around. But what they're doing is they're creating one-on-ones right here. Now, what does that do? That creates where if you're one-on-one and I'm blocking this guy and Miles decides to go through here, that creates a pick game to where these 2 guys have got to pass that off. And that's not always the easiest thing. And if you look here, they're actually picking 2 guys. They're actually bringing a 2-man pick and bringing Clowney around, which is something that is obviously a hard one to pick up. And then they're dropping out. Watch 54. Now, why does 54 do this? This is one of those things, people in the chat, I want to be interactive with you guys if possible. Sometimes, that these linebackers, they run up in the line and then they drop late. And what's the purpose of that? You're like, well, why aren't you just dropping into coverage? It just, so what that does is, like I said, if they're going man on man right there, if 54 takes like 2 or 3 steps up, he buys this guy. This guy has to block him. He's got to respect the fact that maybe he's blitzing, maybe he's not. So, if once he reads that and drops out, you can watch how this guard is just a step too late right now getting back. See how he's just a step too late? That's because 54 stepped up and then came out late. So there's a purpose for that. And one of the best teams I saw do that was Indianapolis when Matt Eberflus was there. We used to play them, and I'm telling you, he would bring those guys. He would step guys up and buy guys and then drop them out and then bring pick games underneath. Watch Clowney. My man had a little rough fall right here. Oh boy. Then you got to laugh about it, I guess, but you got a sack there. All right. So the last sack here, this is versus the Bengals. Now this is one that I'm pretty sure that they're probably looking at these kind of things, because really these aren't tough. These aren't tough sacks here. Like this isn't something that is really that hard of a pickup. But again, why do you walk 54 directly over the center? The reason is you're trying to create one-on-ones here. That's what you're trying to do. Now, what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up running an ET. So the ends are going to go under. These tackles are going to go around. Tackles are going to go around. You'll see here. And again, see how 54 is really covering the back. But that still buys the center's eyes for just long enough. And then what happens is when you come down through here, he's going to come around. Comes down through here, he's going to come around. and it just allows, there's just enough movement to where, you do that. Now, here's another thing over here. I know Collins over here had some issues here. He kind of overstepped and then lost his footing there, which in a turn, in all reality, you're opening the gate again on that rusher, and got called for holding. So, these are some of the things that just the Bengals have just got to be ready for, and I guarantee you, I can promise you, they're going to know where 95 is, and whatever numbers Zadarius Smith is wearing, they're going to know wherever he is, and you just got to continue to, make a game plan that puts yourself in the best position to not get beat by their best player. So one of the things I remember, Bengals fans remember Hugh Jackson, and I know Cleveland fans remember Hugh Jackson too. But one of the things Hugh used to do with the offense was he would say, hey, listen, we're putting a red dot on these guys. Those are their guys. These guys are not going to beat us. And, guys like J.J. Watt, guys you played like that, those, Myles Garrett, those guys were going to be like, okay, listen, we're going to find a way to not let their best player just wreck our game. And I think if anybody remembers I believe it was the 2011 playoffs, played in Houston, and J.J. Watt picked off a pass right before halftime, and that was one of those things that going into any other Houston game or any time we played him anywhere that he was, I guess Arizona, it was one of those things where you just go, listen, we got to figure out a way to not let this one person wreck our game, because he had the ability to do that. And that's what they got to do with those guys on defense offensively. And they also got to establish the run. I mean, I showed a bunch of pass things and all this, but like in all reality, if guys like Myles Garrett don't really like to be run at. If they're a pass rusher, they're not big on being run at. So it's one of those things where if you can set the run and get the run going early and get Joe Mixon going, get that kind of flowing, it slows those guys down. It takes pressure off the pass game, so you're not having to necessarily go against a full out, just I got my ears pinned back and I'm coming at you. So now again, the Bengals are known as a throwing team right now, so they got to have a plan for it. And there's a comment here: did it take the Bengals O-line time to pick up those types of stunts up? The thing is it takes any O-line time to work those things. And the good thing that the Bengals have that helps their offensive line out, and the people don't give it enough credit, and I've mentioned it before, is they get to practice against the Bengals defensive line every day. And those guys are pretty good players themselves. So there's a thing when you're in practice and you're going against some really good players, it helps make you better, especially teams like the Bengals that have some exotic packages and can do some things. So, moving on to the Cleveland offense, which I know is a whole different, kind of a beast than we've seen from them in a while. What I want to make a point of is Deshaun Watson. He's very, very known. He's well known as a runner. He's well known to do things with his feet. But he's also got a very accurate arm. He's got a very strong arm. And those are some things that he needs to, show out with if they want to have a chance to beat Cincinnati on Sunday. One of the things that he does that he does really well is you'll see here, this is a play action. And now a lot of times what they're doing with these play actions, you try to pull the underneath coverage up. So as you see here, like they're play actioning, but this guy's going to run like a little snag route. So they're trying to hold the Bengals defenders here. So they're bringing a dagger in behind it. So a dagger is like a 16 to 18 yard in route. And what you do is you do one of two things. You either have an inside receiver that clears it out right here and tries to clear out this area where you run those defenders with them, or you do what they did here and they run a little snag here with this guy, hold him down just enough to where this guy can run in behind him. So again, they've got a good system built in, and they run the ball well enough to where the play actions are going to have a an effect on the defense. And as you see here, it doesn't really bring the linebackers up as much. But again, when that defender went, or that Cleveland receiver went in there, it held the defenders, it held Jesse Bates just enough right there to get this ball over the top. And that's all they were trying to do. And you can see, I mean, really, if Jesse Bates is, 2 steps behind, if Jesse Bates is standing on the black right there of the B instead of the black right here on the B, he probably makes that play. And that's how close some of these things are. But again, they're trying to use Deshaun Watson's ability to have it with the such an accurate arm and a strong arm. And so here's another play action. Now what they're trying to do is they're trying to create ways to get the ball just down the field a little bit more. And you can see it just takes 57 here, just a little bit longer to get out. And when it takes him just a touch longer to get out, you can throw this ball right over his head, right to this guy here. And again, if you look at the accuracy thrown with this ball, there's not a whole lot of places you could have put this ball other than right there where he puts it to be able to get that completed. And again, Amari Cooper, good player, gonna be a pain for the Bengals, but you can see right there they're really using a 7-man protection. They did that on the last one too, because in all reality, Chubb's in protection. So, but they're leaving the tight end in to block, and it just allows a little bit longer. It allows them to have more bodies in there to help get the play off. So, the Bengals have got to be good up front and beat some one-on-one blocks to be able to do that. Now, when it comes to Nick Chubb, I only have really one clip of him. So I think everybody knows what he's about. But as you can see here, this is a pin and pull type play. Sorry here. So they're going to block down. They're going to end up pulling, I believe, the center and the guard here. And it allows him to get up in here. When he gets here, you'll see like a vertical movement with him. So he gets in behind. Now you got your center right here pulling, going to lead up in there. Now you see how he stays right there. Now he just gets vertical. There's a lot of backs that are going to say, man, I see all this green over here. I'm going to run over here. I'm going to run over here because I see green. I mean, he said, no, I'm going to go as fast as I can, try to get as much yards as I can, and then I'm going to try to make a move on the guy when he gets there. And then you can see even after he makes that first move and he gets around that first defender. So right here, he was vertical all the way to here. Now he gets to this defender. He's going to make a move here, but watch him get vertical again. Now that's a sign of a back that understands where's the end zone. The end zone's over there. There's a lot of backs that think that they got to do this, 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 do this to get to there. When in all reality, sometimes you just need to do that. I know I'm pointing out the obvious, but I've had some experience with some of, some really good running backs that, it took them a minute, even with Mixon in 2017, 2018, really in 2018 when Mixon, he ended up being 4th in the league and he led the AFC in rushing. We had like 8 or 9 games left. He had already missed 2 or 3. And I just told him, I said, hey man, if you just start putting your foot in the ground and just going vertical, you're going to get so many more yards. And next thing you know, it just, he just took off that year. And he was hard to tackle because he was going, so hard vertically that it was hard for those guys to tackle him. And I think that's where Chubb brings us into. I know y'all say Chubb is a scrub. I see that right there, but I feel like there's some homers in the chat tonight, which is okay because I actually know the homers that are talking, Reed, and that's all good. But point being is this: he's still a pretty good player, so they got to be ready for him. Now here's some things that they're going to do with Deshaun Watson. So how do you stop a running quarterback? There's a couple ways you do it. In the pass game, you can put a spy on him. You could say, hey, this guy, no matter what, when they go into coverage, wherever, he's going to have his eyes on him and kind of hang out around here, and they're going to spy him. But what they're going to do is there's other ways to get him on his feet and get him moving. Well, what they're doing is there's multiple terms for this, but this would be a counter OT bash play. So really he's running a sweep, the back is. they're going to read this guy on the backside. If he goes up the field, Watson's going to pull and run. If he crashes down like this, they're going to give it to him and let him run around the edge. Because if you watch the guys at the top, the receivers at the top, they're blocking for Chubb to get the ball. So, sorry about that. So these two guys are actually blocking for Chubb to get the ball and run around here. These guys, every single one of these other guys, they're all back down, blocking, back, blocking. He's pulling and kicking. He's pulling around right here. And then Watson's going to read that guy right there to pull and run here. I know there's a lot of black lines right there. But you can see that it's that those kind of plays are getting him in space with quarterback design runs. So again, he's arcing here. Really, they're blocking all the way back. They're blocking back. He's blocking back. He's pulling to kick. He's pulling around for 52. Chubb's trying to get the edge here. They're reading this guy for him to either hand it or give it. So this is like when I say bash, it's B-A-S-H. So bash, that's what kind of people call it. So this would be like a counter OT bash. And you can see right here, that's a lot of running space for anybody. But the fact that it's the quarterback running the ball, and he can still become a running back out there, those are ways that they're trying to get him the ball. So now looking at what this one kind of quick snapped us. Now I don't know why it quick snapped us, but I will say this: if it did quick snap, they do have tempos. So I'm pretty sure that's where this came from. But if you look, this is a max protection. When I say max protection, you've got the tight end and the back in protection, along with the five linemen. Now this is going to be a 3-level pass concept. So you got a guy underneath, it's going to be here. You got a guy running deep, and you got a guy running here. So you're going to end up with 3 levels. As you can see here, you got a guy underneath, you got a guy at this level, and then you got a guy running, clearing out at the top. Now what this does is it allows the quarterback to say, all right, we're really going to read more or less that whoever this flat defender, curl hook defender is that's playing this guy underneath, if he plays the underneath one and there's room, then we want to throw that. If for some odd reason they decided not to cover the deep threat here, like you can see right here, if this guy runs and they for some reason fall off here and he goes here, like that's why this is called an alert. So there's an alert to say we want to check him first. Now this is what some people in football call this a Mardi Gras read. This is a top-down read right here. So there's your little a little vernacular you can use. So anytime you see a 3-level deal like this, it's a top-down read. 1, 2, 3. So that's how he's reading this. And again, I want you to watch the accuracy and the strength of that arm, and that's where he comes into effect. Now, how can the Bengals counteract a max protection play that maybe they know is coming? You can not blitz a max protection, because then all of a sudden you've got 7 dudes up here blocking 4 or blocking 3. So if there ever is a situation where you might get it, you can always bluff out of some things. And you kind of, then all of a sudden now you've got possibly 8 guys back here covering a 3-man route, because if you look at this, that's all it is. It's a 3-man route because everybody else is in here blocking. So there's ways to combat it. But again, I mean, they still got to just go cover. So, but that's something that they are doing to where they're trying to help him out. But again, strong arm, fast receivers, it does create some issues here. I do think, Maxwell here in the chat, if any profession, I think football is the most industry-specific vernacular. It is true. If you ever get a chance to go sit in an offensive line meeting, I don't care at what level, any level, just go sit in an offensive line meeting and just listen to what's being said. And if you take any of it out of context, everything in that meeting can be taken out of context. But I'm not going to give any examples here. I'm trying to keep this family friendly, but there are a lot of things with the vernacular. But Mardi Gras read was just one of those ones. I actually use that with my players. It's Mardi Gras read. It's top down. They're from Louisiana, so they all know. We're 45 minutes from New Orleans. Anyway, so moving forward. Now that we got past that, So with quarterback movement, so, not only do they max protect, but they're going to find a way to get Watson kind of on the move. So as you see here, this isn't really a sprint out. It's not really a naked. It's more of a kind of people used to call these like a waggle, but it's like a semi-roll, with a guy, with an uncovered lineman popping out and helping out on the front side. So as you see here, the tight end hits this end, the defensive end, and the centers, I believe, is popping out here. And it allows him just to kind of move the pocket a little bit, get away from some of those rush defenders and things like that. But you can see, and then he steps up, and again, same thought process here. Now, it's not the exact same, but it's the same. So you got double post here, guy in the flat, and here comes Amari Cooper from the other side. So in all reality, you end up with, a 3-level look again. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3 here. And you can see it, Amari Cooper just kind of keeps coming over. He gets lost over in there. And again, you're kind of looking at this guy right here. This guy's in no man's land. Does he cover down? Does he cover back? Does he even see Amari Cooper coming around? He probably doesn't. And then all of a sudden he sees the throw go, and that's when he turns and goes back. But that's a well-designed play. But again, you need a whole lot of time. If you really look at this when it's snapped, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's almost 5 seconds that he's holding that ball back there. So your protection has to hold up if you're going to throw these kind of route concepts. And but the way they designed it there, it allowed the time to do it. And again, Pittsburgh's, I don't know if their rushers are nearly as good as they used to be, but they still got some good rushers up there. And you can see, obviously, you got Watt over here, but see what they did. They slowed him down with the tight end initially, and then Watt comes up here, and here's the center there. So not only did you get the tight end slowing him down, like I said earlier, maybe you put a back on Myles Garrett and slow him down. They slowed down T.J. Watt, and then they got a bigger body, a bigger guy in the center coming over, to take over. So there's ways to develop these pass protections to allow these kind of things to happen. Now, I will say this, and I noticed somebody in the chat said, Joe Burrow hasn't had 5 seconds, and it is what it is at times. But the thing about it too is that they've invested a lot here over the years in their offensive line at Cleveland. So the Bengals are now getting to the point where I think they've invested enough into it now to where they can start doing some things that are a little different than maybe you've seen in the past few years. But you can see here again, when you give Watson time, especially if he's got his receivers running and they're healthy and running, that's something. Now, here's a couple scrambles. This one's a pass, and if you just kind of look at the way this develops, he has to break the pocket, but he keeps his eyes up the field. And now with the Bengals, if you watch here, the way this thing ended up, once Deshaun breaks the pocket here, you can see this guy came down. I can't tell who that is, but he came down thinking, man, I got to go take care of him because he's running the ball. Well, that puts that corner in a tough spot, and that's how it allowed him to just dump the ball over here to him. So if you have a running threat at quarterback, that's where you can really, create havoc with, the defensive backs. Because like right here, that's a good rush by Cincinnati. I mean, that really is a good rush. You got, they got him now. He broke the pocket here. But my man fell down right here. So I think he was probably supposed to be, I'm not sure who he's chasing, but that put him in a predicament there. And again, that's what they're trying to do. Now, the last one I got here is a look at him actually running the ball. Now, this is 3rd and 10. Okay, mind you, this is 3rd and 10. So what's the best play we got on 3rd and 10? I can tell you right now, any coordinator is going to tell you anything over 3rd and 10, there ain't a whole lot of plays that we have in the playbook that convert 3rd and 10. We have them, but I'm saying it's not what you want to be in, obviously. So now you're looking at here, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, and then they got a guy sitting here covering the back. So you got 5 guys blitzing here, really playing a man coverage look. And then now who's covering? Here's the big question, and I think I've asked this before. Who covers the quarterback in man coverage? I mean, it's a real question, and I think it's a question that needs to be thought about at times, especially when you've got a guy who can run. Because right now, he's blitzing. He's covering the back. These guys are blitzing. He's covering him. Who's covering Watson? Nobody, unless you've got a spy, and they don't have a spy here. So when you don't have a spy and then you run and see he's covering him, he's got to retrace and try to get in there. And really, Pittsburgh didn't do a bad job of the rush lanes. But again, you've got a guy who can turn himself into basically a running back. And if you give him the chance on a 3rd and 10, again, this is 3rd and 10, and it's really empty. But you can see Cleveland was trying to do the same thing I was saying earlier right here. This is a chip right here. And you can see they even did it. They even chipped with a receiver over here. And, that's something that I know I've been a part of at different places, even Cincinnati, where if we knew we had some issues on the edge. So, but again, they got to be able to, control that part of his game. If the Bengals can control that part of the game and keep those guys from creating plays that they don't, because really you get him out of the pocket, like Mark right here, Mark Fetters hit it on the head. Just got to keep him in the pocket. And if you keep him in the pocket, make him beat you with his arm, not his feet. And I think you've got a chance. Now, again, if he gets going where he's running, because I remember playing him in Houston, and I mean, they would move him all over the place in Houston. And it was one of those things where you got to pick your poison there. And do you allow him to run and maybe get some yardage and take care of the pass, or do you, find a way to just take the run away from him and, at all costs. And sometimes that kills you in the pass game, because then your coverage is not really as good as it should be. But, I'd say, looking at the game, I believe the Bengals are a 2 to 3 point favorite on the road, which is probably about right. Usually you lose 3 points, or, if the home team's given 3 points in the spread. If you're, on a normal game, if it's a push, you're usually a 3 point favorite at home. So that puts the Bengals roughly at a 5 to 6 point favorite, really, in all reality. So that's about right. I'd see this being a closer game than probably some think. I'm not sure if it's going to be a 1 touchdown game or not, but as long as the Bengals play the way they should, I don't see this being a game that they necessarily, are in danger of losing if they just play their game. But again, I don't think anybody expected the Bengals to lose to Pittsburgh in the opener last year either. So, obviously Burrow hasn't played in this preseason. Now, everything that I've heard and everybody that I've spoken to says he's fine. And for one, they only kept one other quarterback, I believe, on the active roster, so I don't think they're too worried about him. But I don't think that's going to be as big a deal as it was last year. I think he's learned his lesson from, missing some time. And plus, he's played a ton of football. And it's not that he, is a young guy anymore. He's not. He's a true veteran. He's an elite quarterback, and I think he'll be fine. But I think the Bengals need to create, plays in the run game. Like I mentioned earlier, it takes away the pass rush of the Browns. And if they can stay in third and short, second and manageable, to where they're not having to just, hey, we have to throw the ball here. But if you can even have just a threat of a run, it takes away a lot of the pass rush threat. Because if the Browns, if they unleash those pass rushers on them, that, obviously it's going to be, a longer day for them than it would be if they just didn't. But I think if they do get stuck in some third and longers and things like that, some quicker games, some screens, get the ball to those receivers, and that's something that they could do. I noticed in the chat, he is a young guy. He's not football young at all. Like, he is an experienced man playing that position. So I think one of the things that people have got to understand in Cincinnati, you haven't had a guy necessarily at this level for a while, if ever, and enjoy it while you got it, because I can tell you it's a rough deal when something that you just kind of get some things happen here and there. But like, I lived through the end of the Carson Palmer deal, and then obviously when we got let go in 2018, we were fighting just having some talent left us, receiver talent left us, O-line talent left us. But right now, I'm just telling you, enjoy it while you got it. Have fun this weekend. These opening games are always a little nerve-wracking, I know, because you don't really know what you're getting. But I can tell you this: it's going to be fun no matter how it goes, because this is a fun team to watch, and I think the Browns are going to be a good challenge for them to start it out, and then obviously, you turn around and got to play the Ravens, I believe, in week 2. So we'll be back here next Tuesday. I appreciate everybody in the chat. I appreciate everybody that's watching this afterwards. I really, really do appreciate getting this thing off the ground with you guys, and let's keep doing this from week to week. And hey, we got a game to talk about next Tuesday, so appreciate y'all, and I will see you guys next week. All right, guys.